Hey guys, so today I'm doing a library book haul. I went to two different libraries in my town because they had different books I wanted in different locations, so I went to both and got a whole bunch of books. The first book that I got out was Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. This is the Classics Clique book for this month. So Classics Clique is a Goodreads Classics book club. If you want to join in and read this with us this month, you can join that. It's always linked in the info bar down below. I've read a couple other of Jane Austen's novels and really enjoyed them. I've read 3 now, I think, so really excited to read this one. From what I gather, this one is about 2 sisters. There's actually 3 of them, but it kind of follows just 2 of them who live with their mother. Their father's passed away, so they're really keen to get married because you guys might know in the 1800s, if you didn't have a father, you kind of needed a husband to support you financially. So one of them is super romantic and really hopeful, and the other sister is a lot more practical. I've heard this is the funniest of Jane Austen's novels, so I'm really keen to find out what I think of it. If you guys are reading this month as well, or if you've read it in the past, let me know. I've also heard there's a really good movie and a really good TV series based on this book, so I'm definitely going to be watching them afterwards as well. The next book I got out was one that I mentioned in like books that I want to read in 2019. You guys might know as well that one of my goals this year is to read more children's books, including picture books, but also middle grade and things like that. So one of the picture books that I wanted to pick up this year was Ish by Peter H. Reynolds, and my library had like a lot of copies of this book, so I picked it up. It's essentially about a kid that likes to paint. One of his siblings makes fun of him because his drawings aren't that accurate to real life, and essentially he goes on a journey and realizes that his drawings don't have to be perfect. Thank you guys, by the way, for all of your recommendations on one of my last videos. I think it was my goals video when I asked you guys for recommendations for children's books. I got so many recommendations and I've added heaps of them to my Goodreads TBR, so I'm definitely going to be checking out a lot of those from the library over the next year as well. I'm really excited about that, so thank you guys so much. The next book that I got out is one that I really have been wanting to read since it came out last year, and that is Royals by Rachel Hawkins. This one is a YA contemporary novel about a girl whose sister is marrying a prince, so they have to go stay in his palace in Scotland, I think. Next, I got a couple of poetry collections, Milk and Honey and The Sun and Her Flowers. I have to say though, I read a few poems and I wasn't enjoying it, and then I skipped ahead in the book because I know sometimes with poetry collections they can like develop as the collection goes on, so I wanted to see if maybe I'd just like some of the later poems, and I really didn't, so I DNF'd it, and I'm not going to read The Sun and Her Flowers. I just think this particular poet is not for me. These are kind of the style of poems that I don't enjoy. They're really short and very simple, and I think, yeah, I just don't like the style of them, and I wasn't necessarily interested in the subject matter either. It just didn't really speak to me, and yeah, I know a lot of people love these collections. It just wasn't for me. The next book I got was another YA book, and this was actually an author that I had on my list of like children's authors or like middle grade type authors that I wanted to read this year. I checked out her children's books in the library and none of them stood out to me. The ones that were available, there were only like 2, and I read the synopsis and I just thought, I didn't want to start with those books. So I ended up picking up one of her YA books instead, just to see what she's like as an author, and this is The Auditions by Stacey Gregg. It's the first book in the Pony Club Rivals series. So essentially the reason I was interested in Stacey Gregg is because she's a New Zealand author, which is amazing, love that, but most of her books, I think possibly all of them that she writes, are based around like horses and ponies and things like that, which were books that I loved to read when I was a kid, like The Saddle Club, Pony Pals, like all those kind of books, loved them. So I thought I wanted to check out children's books of a similar kind of nature, but for kids of the current generation. Stacey Gregg is a really popular author worldwide as well, which I think is really cool. There's some like horse related people overseas on YouTube that I watch, like that have horse channels, and I know they read Stacey Gregg books, so I thought I definitely had to check her out, so I got this one. This series sounds really cool anyway. It's about a equestrian boarding school, so a girl moves from England to go stay at this American boarding school, which, yeah, sounds really awesome. I love boarding school type stories. If you've read any Stacey Gregg books and you have any favourites, let me know your favorites in the comments so that I can check them out, because I didn't really know where to start. She's written like a lot of books, but I'm definitely keen to read more of her standalone books. The next book I got is a non-fiction book. This I think was the only book that I didn't have on like my list of books that I was searching for at the library. This one I just saw and I thought it sounded really interesting, so I picked it up, and it is Misreading Scripture with Western Eyes by E. Randolph Richards and Brandon J. O'Brien. So this is really about how to read the Bible with within the context that it was originally intended. So there's a lot of things that get misinterpreted because our world now is so different from how things were back then, like within society and things like that. Just like all of our norms are quite different. Next I got a book which was also in my list of books that I wanted to read in 2019, and a few of you guys said that you've read it and really enjoyed it, so I'm excited about that. And it is Uninvited. So this is a non-fiction self-help type book, and it's about overcoming the feeling that you don't belong. So when you go to things or like in different areas in your life and you feel like you just don't fit in, it's designed for like that kind of situation, which is something that I think a lot of us feel like quite a lot of the time throughout our lives. I think everyone feels that way at least at some point, so I thought this would be a really interesting read, and I'll definitely be letting you guys know what I think of it. The next book I got was one that I just recently stumbled upon this. I can't remember where I saw it recommended. It might have just been on Goodreads. I stumbled upon it and I thought it would be really interesting, and that is God and Sex. So it sounds really controversial, but basically it just goes over some different topics that again are maybe a little bit misinterpreted. In the synopsis, or like in some of the reviews that I read of it, it said that this book gives a really balanced look at a lot of different topics, and it addresses the fact that there is ambiguity sometimes. The final book that I got from the library is another one that was on my books that I want to read in 2019 list. I just thought I would get a jump on them really early, and this again is another book that was out. Like, I feel all of last year since it came out it's been out, but they happen to have a copy available. I think when I went into the library, because it's like summer holidays here in New Zealand at the moment, I think it was like right after Christmas, New Year, and maybe people hadn't been back to the library yet, so I just happened to get it at the right time. But it is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This has been a really hyped book last year, like ever since it came out. Lots of people have read it and said it's really good. It's an adult fiction novel. To be honest, I don't really know what it's about. I think it's a journalist interviews a like old Hollywood movie icon, but other than that I don't know. But I've heard really good things about it, so I hope I enjoy it as much as everyone else has. So those are all of the books that I've got out from the library recently. If you've read any of them, let me know your thoughts on them, and like I said, please recommend me your favourite Stacey Gregg books, particularly her standalone books if you've read any of them. And I will see you guys with another video in a couple of days. Bye.